There's been mixed reaction from political parties to President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to establish a judicial commission of inquiry into alleged interference in police investigations. Ramaphosa has now appointed Professor Feroz Kachalia as a former ANC politician and current professor of law at the University of Witwatersrand to serve as acting police minister in the interim. For a reaction on this, we are now joined by the General Secretary of the South African Federation of Trade Unions, Zwelinzima Vavi. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. As SAFTU, how do you respond to this?
Well, we were amongst those organizations that called for the establishment of a judicial, independent, transparent commission of inquiry to investigate very serious allegations that have made South Africa to be so concerned about what is happening in their criminal justice system. These allegations, in particular presented by Lieutenant General Dlandla Mkhwanazi, range from the capture of the political leadership by syndicates of drug lords, the lawbreakers who are currently imprisoned, and they seem to have some evidence to present to South Africa. And we said those investigations were serious enough to warrant a commission of inquiry. The commission of inquiry has now been established. The concern will be two things. Firstly, how long will it take for us to unearth the truth? And secondly, whether the presidency, bearing in mind the dismal failure of this government to implement the recommendations of many other commissions of inquiry, including the one that costed South Africa a cool billion rands, the Zondo Commission on State Capture, the Nugent Commission on the shenanigans that sought to undermine the credibility and the integrity of South African revenue services, and the Falam Commission that looked at the violence conducted by the state on mine workers in Marikana. You can go on and on. We are simply wary, and yet we have no choice but to say, if we are to conduct every business in line with the Constitution of South Africa that offers everyone who's being accused a right to be heard, to be listened to, and that two sides must be presented to an independent panel such as the Judicial Commission of Inquiry before we take final decisions. And I think there is no option rather than to follow this with the concerns that we've already raised.
Yeah, and then if you look into the powers of the Commission of Inquiry being able to, for instance, call on the institutions if they believe that there should be action be taken while the investigation is ongoing around the suspension, as the President said, the employment status of those individuals. What do you read into that? It doesn't go as far, though, as with the members of the executive, former members of the executive, though, in the security cluster, but only current members of the executive in the security cluster.
Well, the previous members are already out of the system. We worried more about those that are inside that can have a possibility of manipulating the system. That type of a provision to recommend and to put on immediate suspension anyone where there is an overwhelming evidence that they have wronged the people of South Africa by working with the underworld, by defeating the ends of justice, and by undermining what is contained in the Constitution of South Africa, that all shall be equal before the eyes of the law, as well as the relevant legislation that does in place any individual above the law. That will be welcoming on our part, that there must be immediate action. What makes us to be wary, and South Africans to be wary about commissions, is that they take extraordinary time, and when recommendations eventually come after we have listened to the truth coming and presented, the president, the state, the NPA, and have not acted immediately to assure South Africans that these recommendations do matter.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are looking even at the announcement yesterday with the eye that says, oh, we've heard this before, and there will be no consequences whatsoever, despite the damning evidence that have been presented by General Mkhwanazi.
Yeah. So the focus of this inquiry, as the president has said, is mostly related to the allegations that have been leveled by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against the senior individuals and politicians. The president doesn't make reference, though, to the minister allegedly lying to Parliament, although the argument from some people has been that the evidence is already before us, what the minister had said before. And now that there's a statement from the minister about Brown Mokgotsi and how he refers to him as a comrade, on that basis alone, could the president have taken any harsher action against the Minister Senzo Mchunu? But on that as well, then that means that Dr. Nkabane as well, the Minister of Higher Education, some would have said then the president must have acted against her as well.
Exactly. Then he will be seen to be inconsistent. And we can only hope that the president will think about this. The opposition parties have already laid charges against Minister Senzo Mchunu of lying under oath in Parliament, of misleading Parliament, of misrepresenting the facts about this Mokgotsi in Parliament. And we've checked if the laying of the charges are in any way separate from the Commission of Inquiry. In addition to that, General Mkhwanazi himself have laid charges of defeating the ends of justice against Minister Mchunu. Our advice is that the NPA will still be within their right to pursue those allegations, and that if there is sufficient evidence that will convince the court of law that the minister must be held accountable, then the NPA can still pursue that irrespective of the fact that the Commission of Inquiry will effectively start working on the first week of August. Now that there is a prima facie evidence that indeed the minister misled Parliament and that he is not the only one, and previously the Minister of Higher Education, Nkabane, have also done the same and lied basically in Parliament, something that the DA, for example, have also laid charges against her about. Then it would have been very good for the president to use stronger language to say, insofar as the two members of my executive have lied under oath, I'm putting them out of the cabinet, and I'm suspending them and pending further investigation of whatever thing that can be to send a stronger message. A message of leave is not strong enough in our view, and a message that ignores the fact that the two ministers have lied under oath in Parliament is not strong enough, and that's what doesn't give confidence to South Africans that something will come out of this Commission of Inquiry.
As somebody who understands Labour, who has been in Labour, what's your reading into a minister, member of the executive, being placed on leave of absence? And then on top of that is, sure, the Commission of Inquiry has its time frame, some saying that it could take up to a year. The president has said that he wants 2 interim reports, one in the 3rd month and the second in the 6th month of the Commission of Inquiry. So during that period, the Minister of Police would be essentially on leave of absence while that investigation is ongoing. And if the previous commissions of inquiries are anything to go by, they take longer than people would have anticipated, and even the time frame that would have been given by the head of the executive. What do you read into that?
The minister effectively have been suspended. The language of leave without absence is just more like a softer version, softer language than a stronger language that will communicate the seriousness and I wish the president takes this whole saga. But effectively, it means that he cannot go to work, he cannot interfere with the investigation, he cannot direct any member of the police services to do this or not to do that, and full stop. the supervision of the police will be under a different regime come the 1st of November, and that is under Professor Sakalia. And that is fine. We have no qualms with putting the minister under suspension, even if he puts a softer language of we have given him a leave of absence. In the employment relations, you cannot put somebody on leave without pay, and that will be found wanting if it is challenged in court. If you put somebody on leave or you suspend that person, it will be with full pay, with full conditions of employment, and unless you decide to dismiss it, the president was within the right in the context of the minister, not or the minister lying basically in Parliament about Mokgotsi. On that score, he should have dismissed both the minister as well as the Minister of Higher Education, as we have just said.
Yeah, and then finally, Senzo Mchunu is still a member of Parliament, and I remember when the ANC came up with the step-aside rule, one of the issues that they had to grapple with, that if you do implement the step-aside rule and the person is a member of the legislature, a member of the National Assembly, as an example, that the National Assembly can't simply just suspend the person because the ANC has a resolution that says step aside. Here the president has said that the minister must go on a leave of absence. But what then happens to his status as a member of Parliament?
Well, as we understand the ANC rule, it says if a criminal charge has been laid against you and that the NPA has decided to prosecute the matter, or it has believed that there is a reason to suspect that the law has been broken and therefore it is taking the matter to court, at that point, then the member must step aside. That's how we have understood this step-aside rule. Is it effective? Has it been applied consistently under all circumstances? That's a debate the South African public can have. But it is a good to have a role, I must say, personally. I don't know what Saftu will say this. Yeah. If any member of the public, by the way, this rule should be applying to all politicians across the board. It mustn't cherry pick only those that feel they have a moral obligation to step aside. All the people who are in court today who are facing serious allegations, all of the people whose name come out of the forensic report under sworn statements should be forced to step aside until those allegations are cleared in the courts of law or in the subsequent work of those commissions of inquiry.
Sure.
I don't like inconsistency. If somebody says Mkhunu must go on the basis that the allegations against him, but I will say so all of those who have also had serious allegations against their head, or who are even in courts as we speak, must follow him into the political dustbin.
Let me just quickly qualify that question in relation to Senzo Mchunu as a member of Parliament. So he takes leave of absence as the Minister of Police, but he still has duties in relation to his status as a member of Parliament to the National Assembly. Is it known what happens to that particular aspect as a member of Parliament? Senzo Mchunu now, the individual, not Senzo Mchunu, the police minister, but Senzo Mchunu, the member of Parliament, member of the ANC. What happens to his obligations towards the National Assembly?
It's a joke, isn't it, that somebody who's walking under a massive cloud, that he is working with the underworld, drug lords, and who are destroying the future of our young children, will now be expected to supervise the work of Parliament as an honorary member in Parliament whilst facing that cloud. If I was Minister Mkhunu, I would say to the ANC, for the sake of credibility, integrity of Parliament, I will step aside altogether, even in Parliament, and subject myself to the process to clear my name and come back after I have been cleared. That's to me the most moral thing to do.
Yeah, and of course, he has come out to say that he welcomes this decision that has been taken by the president, and he will also participate fully and cooperate in this investigation. Thank you so much for making time for us.